As Paul Christ would say, transfer portal my effing blank. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome back to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. Really glad to have you here. Today's episode, we are talking about the Wisconsin versus Miami lawsuits. What's next? What's the why? And a new PWO commit for the Badgers. We're going to do all of that. But first, thank you for making this one of your first listens every day. And thank you for being a part of this community that we're building. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, join FanDuel. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet with FanDuel, the official partner of the NBA. Okay. Let's start here. So I did a quick reaction to this show, or to this, Wisconsin suing Miami over the Xavier Lucas situation, but I really wanted to dive into it a little bit more. And I think we need to start, zoom out a little bit with what's the what. And by the way, I apologize, my AC went out here, so it's going to get a little hot in here, but listen, like Leo Chanel, we are not taking any reps off. Let's start with the what. So Wisconsin is suing Miami, not the player, who is Xavier Lucas, who's not named in the suit, but we all know who this is about. They're suing the university for impermissible contact, torturous interference. Wisconsin alleges Miami knowingly induced a student athlete to essentially take a different NIL package to come play for them. Impermissible pre-portal contact. You're right. So again, that is the tampering element to this. And they're looking for financial and reputational harm. Essentially, they would like Miami. And I am not a lawyer, but they're seeking some type of financial compensation for this. And basically an acknowledgement from Miami that wrongdoing was done here. So, and the Big Ten has backed Wisconsin on this. The Big Ten has stepped up and said, yep, we agree. This makes sense. And they're in this boat too, which, by the way, if you're the ACC, you can't love Wisconsin and the Big Ten lining up. Those are some powerhouses. Let me start here. Let me start with my big rock, my big picture takeaway here. There needs to be an adult in the room. And I said that on my quick takeaway. There needs to be an adult in the room. And no matter what happens in the future of NIL, and Wisconsin's not perfect, nobody's been perfect, but no matter what happens in the future of NIL and in the landscape, we are all learning to navigate as fans, as media personalities, as coaches, as players, as universities, as people running collectives. No matter where we go, Wisconsin will always be the first school that stood up and said, this is nonsense. The emperor has no clothes, and I'm going to be the school. We are going to be the school that calls it out. Because what have we heard for years? We've heard coaches from the SEC, the ACC, the AAC, the Big Ten, the Big 12. We've heard all these coaches talk about the ridiculousness of tampering, how we need to stop it. We're going to go after teams that tamper with our players, where there needs to be penalties. This is ridiculous. You can't build a team this way. But nobody has actually stepped up and said, all right, well, I'm going to try to do something about it. And no matter what comes out of this, and I don't know if anything will come out of this, time will tell if it's going to be worth the squeeze. But Wisconsin will always be the first school that stood up and said, no, this is silly. People need to stop messing with players, and we will be the first school to do it. That makes me proud. That's a cool thing. Somebody needs to be the adult in the room. Why not Wisconsin on Wisconsin? That's the motto, Wisconsin, and they're going to step up and be the adult in the room here. Let's just talk about a couple of these quotes, right? And you could find 20 more just like this. All you got to do is Google. This is from Kirby Smart talking about transfer portal and tampering. It's upsetting. It's disturbing. This is from Dave Clawson. A couple of years ago, something like this tampering thing would get somebody fired. Today, there's no penalty for doing that. These are quotes over the last couple of years. This is from Greg Sankey. Jim Morris, sorry. A simple note to schools and coaches who have blatantly broken NCAA football rules by tampering with our players in the last 24 hours. We do know who you are. We will pursue all avenues to hold you accountable. Again, these are quotes over the last couple of years. Greg Sankey. There needs to be accountability. We need to send some real clear messages on that behavior ceasing. Again, so we have all these coaches from different conferences stepping up and saying, this has got to stop. The portal stuff or the tampering stuff is ridiculous. We can't keep players. This is not a way to build a roster. And yet when some school steps up, you got Miami being like, whoa, why are you doing that? No, like there needs to be an adult in the room. And I'm sorry if Miami, that means accountability for you. I had a Miami fan point out, well, Wisconsin just got hit with some recruiting allegations too. I'm like, yeah, and they're facing accountability for it, which is exactly what we would like you to do. For once in your university's history, face some accountability for clearly tampering. And I'm telling you right now, Wisconsin's not doing this. They're not pushing this is not a bluff. They're not pushing the chips into the middle of the table. If there's not smoke here, if there's not something really here, there's no way they would be doing it. Shane says it's about time Wisconsin does something about this. Yeah, I think it's really important to note the collective Wisconsin, and this is according to their lawsuit, paid a substantial financial amount to Xavier Lucas. Money was exchanged as part of this agreement, this NIL agreement. This is real life stuff. If you sign a contract and you agree to something and you take a certain amount of money, you shouldn't just then a very quick time later be able to say, oh, time to bounce, I'm out. That's not how this works. That's not how life works. It's just not. And it's not an anti-Xavier Lucas thing. I actually really like him. I had him on the show. He was great to talk to. I was crestfallen when he left because I thought he was a great young man, still is, right? I don't begrudge him at all, but Miami came in and with a player that they knew was under a certain financial agreement and tampered, allegedly. But again, I don't think Wisconsin goes forward with this if that's not the case. So I applaud Wisconsin for stepping up and saying, no, this is a bunch of bull crap. This is bull crap, period. And maybe some money, maybe Miami quietly settles. We're going to talk about what's next, coming up next, and why some of the reasons I think this is a really good move by Wisconsin. We're going to talk about that next. But ultimately, no matter what happens, I'm proud of Wisconsin for standing up for themselves. I'm proud of the university for saying this is a bunch of crap. Like Wisconsin's lost a lot of guys in the portal. They haven't done this with any other player because this is unique. This is a unique situation where they had something in place and they, again, according to the document, according to them, they pushed something across the line and then very quickly after that player left. That's not okay. And good for Wisconsin for calling it out. Regardless of what happens, like call out the truth, call out what happened and say, this is a bunch of BS. And just, I'm proud of Wisconsin for doing that. I'm proud of them for being the first school to step up to the plate on this. And I guarantee you, there are so many coaches and programs that are quietly, even if they won't say it, are quietly in the back of their head saying, yeah, good for them. We should have done something like that too. And two things could come out of this before I want to get into what's next. The first two things that popped in my mind is, the first is this could set the table for a lot of other schools starting to stand on business, starting to say, no, if we pay you, you can't just leave. At the very least, we need that money back and those resources back. You can't just bounce with the money. That could happen. This could be the first step to that starting to happen. And the second one is, I bet you schools might think twice about messing with Wisconsin's players now, because they probably don't want to get embroiled in a lawsuit, right? It's just, they'll probably think a couple moments longer before coming up and trying to tamper with somebody at Wisconsin. So I think there's a lot to be proud of here if you're a Wisconsin guy. Again, not that Wisconsin's perfect, not that any school's perfect, but I do think this is pretty cool. Wisconsin will always be the first school that stepped up to the plate for this. I want to read a comment, if I can, quickly from Rajiv, who comes on the show obviously all the time. You guys know Rajiv. Let me pull this one up here. He's up on a cruise now, but he said, good for us suing them. This is how you make it look better. Don't sue the kids, sue the school. And totally makes sense that you need to wait for the settlement since the contract was dependent on that. Fight, guys. We will be the example. We will set the precedent. He put some colorful language in there as well that I'm not going to repeat. But yeah, I agree with him. I like it. I'm proud of Wisconsin for doing this. All right, we're going to take a quick break for our friends of the show. Then we're going to come back and talk a little bit about some of the main reasons why I think Wisconsin is standing on good ground with this, plus a new preferred walk-on commit that we got to talk about. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick second for our friends of the show over at FanDuel. Listen, FanDuel is incredible. They are the number one source for all your sports betting needs, the number one sportsbook that we use, and the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. This is where we go to all of our sports betting, live betting, in-game betting. And right now, FanDuel, it is a tremendous place if you want to get started as a new customer, because with a new customer $5 bet, if you sign up, you get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed if your first bet hits. It's over at FanDuel.com. Great way to spice it up. Again, any type of bets you want, parlays, futures, teasers, spreads, it's all over there on FanDuel. excellent time to get started. And the user interface is clean. It's simple. It's incredibly easy to use right now over at our good friends over at FanDuel.com, the official sportsbook of the NBA and the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, let's jump back into this. All right. A couple things I want to hit on quick. And then if you guys are tuning in live, if you have any comments, send them my way. And again, I apologize if I look hot. It's because my air conditioning went out. It is what it is. But again, we're not missing any reps here. I was thinking about this more on the drive home because we just came from the East Coast back to Wisconsin. Obviously, I'm back in my office now, the studio that you guys probably recognize a little bit more than being at the cabin. And my first thought that was rattling around in my head is the NIL wasn't meant to legitimize tampering. Like NIL wasn't meant to allow schools to go in with players that have agreed contracts and bring in alumni and tamper with them. That's not what NIL was meant for. That this is not a gateway to allow teams to raid other teams of rosters and of talent. And again, if it's always probably going to happen somewhat, there's always going to be bagmen, but there's going to be consequences now, and there should be. Because otherwise, what's the point of any of this? What's the point of the settlement? What's the point of trying to have some vestige of college sports if this is what it's going to be, if you're going to be okay with this? Wisconsin has gotten players in the portal, but they haven't done it like this. And Wisconsin has lost guys in the portal that they haven't sued over because it wasn't done like this. This case isn't just about this player. It's about precedent. It's about creating a bit of a line in the sand saying, after this, we're done. This is not what this is about. This is not what this is supposed to be about. And we're going to set a precedent that may or may not happen off this case, but at least it creates a little bit of friction for other schools trying to do this. You could get sued now. This could happen to you if you want to cross these lines, if you want to tamper, if you want to go against kind of the intent of this. Well, this is a potential outcome now. It creates a bit of a precedent. And the other thing I'd say is athletes deserve rights. They deserve to get paid. But so do universities and NIL collectives have rights too. They deserve some benefit if money is exchanged as well. This isn't a one-sided street. This is not athletes can do whatever they want to do in perpetuity and nothing can be done about it. That's not what this is supposed to be about, right? There are rights on both sides of this. And if you're going to exchange money or financial considerations for the right to have somebody on a roster for NIL rights, well, that's an exchange of goods and services both ways. It's not a one-way street. And I think sometimes that gets lost a little bit in this idea that how could Wisconsin do this? And what are they doing? And athletes deserve to get paid. Of course, athletes deserve to get paid. I've never argued against that. I am 100% athletes. Go get yours, get paid. But it's a two-way street now. Like you can't just get paid and take the money and go somewhere else to get paid again without doing anything for the university. And if that happens, then that money should come back. If that money was paid, which allegedly it was, this wasn't just a portal thing. This is premeditated tampering by Miami. And again, I think Wisconsin is well within their means to say, I disagree. This is nonsense. We're raising the flag and we'll be the school to do it. It makes me proud of Wisconsin to do that. JB says, I hope this doesn't have backlash in recruiting. You needs to keep their commits, make sure the kids get paid, and don't have the image of being a program that's going to block player options. Listen, I've seen this a couple places, and JB is phenomenal, great friend of the show. I think this is two things with this. I think partially that's why they're going after Miami and not the player, which I think it's because you want to be careful with that. But I think Wisconsin can keep this narrative very clean, right? It's the narrative of we were done wrong. And I think they can sell that to coaches and players really easily. I think it could have impacts in certain parts of Florida. I'm going to be real. I made that point when it happened. Xavier Lucas is from American Heritage, a really popular school with a lot of D1 athletes. In South Florida, this could have some recruiting impacts. But I think this will also resonate potentially really well with a lot of coaches who are fed up with a lot of what's going on in football now. And they can sell this as Wisconsin's a place of principle. Wisconsin's going to stand on their business. It was never a we don't want to pay players thing. They were willing to pay Xavier Lucas a lot of money for being here. And so I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think I hear you on this. I don't think it would have a significant impact in recruiting. I really don't. Mitch James says, setting a new narrative can make schools think twice about tampering. Yeah, it's something I talked about earlier. I think at the very least, this probably makes schools think a couple times about tampering. Ian Coleman says, why didn't they put him in the portal when he asked? Because he had just signed this agreement, because he had just been given a decent amount of money. Again, allegedly, according to what Wisconsin put out there, but that's why. Like, if he had wanted to go to the portal, he should have not taken that offer that Wisconsin gave him. And JB Cham did as well. Yeah, so I mean, that's my take on it. Again, I'm proud of Wisconsin for kind of stepping out and being that first school to at least publicly, because a lot of schools have talked about this, a lot of coaches have talked about this, but that first school to kind of publicly say, this is nonsense, stop tampering with players. I do really want to quickly hit on, and if you guys have any more comments on this, throw them in the chat. Again, I just got back to Wisconsin, so I wanted to talk about this. My air conditioning went out, but it's all good. 2020, I do. Ian Coleman says his lawyer said he didn't take money. Yeah, I'll say this. That's not kind of what Wisconsin has said, and we'll see. We'll see. I don't think Wisconsin pushes their chips into the table if they didn't have the evidence here. And Derek Ostinger says the same thing. They won't push this if they didn't have any evidence. His attorneys, Darren Heitner, who also conveniently teaches NIL at the University of Miami. I don't know. We'll see. Listen, time will tell. We'll see. I do want to hit on this, though, because I think this is cool, too. 2026 Bayport offensive lineman Aiden Dirksen commits to the Badgers. 6'6", 280 pounds, 2026 class out of Bayport. Big frame. Two things here. Obviously, the in-state talent is something that we've talked about a lot, trying to get a little more of, continuing to recruit those in-state pieces. But also, that's a pretty good frame. He came up, he camped, the coaching staff liked him. They saw him in person, 6'6", 280 already. For a PWO, I like it. You get all the kids that size you can into campus. They saw him in person. They liked him. So I'll dig into some film on him. I haven't had a chance yet because I've been on the road the last couple of days, but I do want to just make sure everyone aware. Aiden Dirksen commits to the Badgers. Dirksen commits to the Badgers. So I'm excited to check out his film and see it. We're going to wrap it there, though. Again, big picture. More is going to come out with this. I applaud Wisconsin for taking a stand. Really do applaud Wisconsin for being the first kind of school out there on this. And I think it could set a precedent in a couple ways, not just for Wisconsin, but for other schools who have been vocally frustrated by people tampering with their players. I think Wisconsin can set a bit of a precedent for, okay, there's going to be repercussions from this point forward. And there are going to be lines that if you cross, you're potentially going to get hit with a lawsuit, with something. And I applaud Wisconsin for doing that. On Wisconsin, I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. You guys are amazing as always. We will definitely talk more tomorrow. Peace. And as always, let me know if there's anything else you want to talk about on this one. We might do another show on it, get Rajiv and Justin on. Definitely talk to you later on Wisconsin, and we will be out.